Hey everyone, it's Boogeyman Ben. Hope everyone's doing well and everyone's having a nice Saturday. This is going to be something different for Boogeyman Ben's Horror Zone. In the nearly 3.5 years since I started this channel, this is going to be the first time that I've had a special guest here in the Horror Zone with me. So my good buddy Ray and I got to talking after I did my top 10 horror films of all time, and that was for my friend Frank, who had asked, what were my favorite horror films of all time. And we started talking about most influential horror films, directors, actors, things like that. And I thought it'd be more interesting if he came into the Horror Zone here and we just had a dialogue on camera. So he brought his top 10 list of most influential artists, movies, what have you, in the horror genre. And since I had already done a top 10, I had my list, but I kind of played it more off the cuff because it was hard for me to sort of categorize them into a top 10. It's really difficult for me to do because I love so much about the horror genre. But it was a great dialogue. We talked for almost 2 hours, and we both learned something. I mean, he taught me told me stuff that I wasn't aware of, and same goes for me telling him about things that he wasn't aware of. So this video was nearly, like I said, almost 2 hours, so I'm going to have to cut it up into several segments. But I wanted to do an introduction, and I want to thank my friend Ray for taking the time out to come and hang out with me and talk horror, which I always love to do. So this is going to be part one. Hopefully it'll only be split up into 4 parts. I might try to do it a little bit shorter. This is going to be part one of influential horror, and with me and my good friend Ray. So I hope everyone enjoys this. Please stay tuned. So before I get started with today's video, I want to give a special shout out to Zuma126. He was nice enough to put together the new intro to my videos. So Zuma, thank you so very much, and please everyone let me know what you guys think of the new intro. This is Boogeyman Ben. Hope everyone's doing well. Got my good buddy Ray here with me. We've been friends for about
22, 23 years?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
School, yeah.
Just for the Amazing Dreamcoat, we were in that play. He was a better actor than I was. But what sparked us to do this video today is we're fans of the horror genre, and we wanted to talk about most influential just films, directors, actors.
I saw on one of your other videos you were having a conversation with one of your friends, and I chimed in saying that I thought it would be really nice to see a list of some classic stuff as well.
Yeah, just instead of what I was, because most of my stuff is more modern.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we just wanted to sort of get together and we both have kind of come to this prepared with our own lists of, what we think is influential in this genre that we're so passionate about. And we're both just going to share, our thoughts, and, we're probably going to have different opinions, but we might also agree on, each other's lists. So
absolutely. Yeah. We're going to school you youngins on some of the classics, too.
See, he's a better actor than me.
I wouldn't call that better.
So, do you have your list with you? Do you just have memories?
I do.
Committed to memory? I wrote mine down just because I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah, I have to remember. On the drive over here, I decided to switch my number 1 and my number 2. Okay. So I have to remember to switch it.
Okay.
But, I even did the little...
Wow, you even have it all typed up and everything. Ooh.
Spooky letters!
See, mine's on Jack Skellington, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, yes. Love it. So I've been a horror fan ever since I was probably about 8 or 9. Mm-hmm. And what sparked it was we were visiting my great-grandparents on their little ranch in San Luis Obispo. And I was on the little rollaway bed in the living room, and my great-grandfather was still up watching TV, and I think it was a Saturday night, so I think whatever local creature feature show was on, and they were showing the original Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney Sr.
Awesome.
And I just stayed up all night watching that with my great-grandfather, and I'll never forget when the big reveal happened, and
she takes the
mask off, and all of a sudden you have this living skull.
Yeah. That makeup is just amazing.
He was just a talented man.
Yeah.
But then they do the zoom in.
Yes.
The zoom in.
The zoom in.
The zoom in.
Yeah.
And I screamed like a little girl. I was just like, ah! It's freaky. And then from that point on, I just started researching and watching the old classics as well as the new stuff, and just became a huge horror fan.
For you, with the Phantom of the Opera, it was me, it was Salem's Lot.
There you go.
Because I was 5 when I first saw Salem's Lot, and I've talked about it many times, but My grandmother was the one that saw the film, the first half of it, because it was a CBS miniseries and it was split into 2 parts, and they aired it a week apart. So she told us to watch it, and I remember it was the first film that just terrified me. I wouldn't get up to go to the bathroom. It scared me so bad. I was sitting with my mom on our gold 70s couch, and I was so scared of this kid that was coming to the window and scratching on the window, telling his friend to open the window, that I was scared to walk down our hallway in our apartment. I held it through the whole movie. And it's just like, it's nice. It's still like, I mean, even though I've seen the movie 1,000 times, it's still like when I watch it, I just remember how I felt when I was a kid watching it. And I couldn't watch it again until I was about 8 years old. When I was a little bit older, I was 3 years older, I was still a kid, but then I just became obsessed with it.
Now, they remade that with Rob Lowe, didn't they?
Yeah.
I never saw that one.
It's decent. It's there's elements of it that are close to the book, especially Rutger Hauer playing Barlow, because in the original, Reggie Nelder played him as the Nosferatu.
Yes.
And the Stephen King novel, he's a suave, sophisticated vampire. It's almost like the elements that were in Straker, as James Mason that played Straker. They made Straker a bigger character in the original, because they wanted the personification of what Barlow was in the book to be in Straker, because Barlow was going to be more of like a standard vampire, whereas in the book he's this suave, refined individual, and in the Rob Lowe film, that's how Rutger Hauer played him. And then Donald Sutherland played Straker, and he played him a little bit more sleazier than James Mason played. I prefer James Mason's.
I think I YouTubed the trailer for it.
It was okay. It wasn't scary. I think that's what was sucked about it. Like, the original was directed by Tobe Hooper, who did Chainsaw Massacre, which is one of the scariest films ever made. And, he knew tension, he knew how to build suspense, whereas the Rob Lowe film was directed very kind of just by the book. Right. There was no highs or lows. The best performances in it were by Andre Braugher and James Cromo. Everybody else was kind of, Rob Lowe was okay.
Well, that kind of makes sense, because they're some of the best actors, period.
Yeah, no, they were great in it.
Braugher and
James Cromo was great in it, because he was sort of played a twisted character, a character that wasn't really fleshed out in the Tobe Hooper film. So it was kind of interesting to see how he brought that to it. Yeah.
Well, the list that I did, I researched through all of my horror encyclopedias and just went through in my mind what movies, what genres, what people, whether they be directors, whether they be actors, what has contributed the most to the horror genre. Okay. And as I was telling you before we started filming, I've got some movies, I've got some people, I've got an organization, I've got a vocation as one of my top most influential things in horror history. Well, my number 10 top 10 most influential film genre people, etc. in horror history, and you're gonna be glad this is on the list. You're gonna probably say that should be a little higher on the list.
This is your list.
It's a tie between Friday the 13th and Halloween.
Awesome.
The reason why they made the cut. Now, mind you, I have so many honorable mentions. I wanted to put Forrest J. Ackerman on my list, because aside from Fangoria,
no kidding.
Monsters of Filmland has done more for horror than any other publication.
Yeah, no kidding.
I wanted to put like Godzilla and certain kaiju on the list, because they're very influential as well as far as bringing Japanese horror to America.
Because Godzilla's huge.
Those get some honorable mentions. But the reason why Friday the 13th and Halloween are on there is because they created a sub-genre within the genre of horror history, which is slasher films.
Slasher films, yeah.
Every single slasher film, whether it's good, bad, a cult classic that has come since, the Nightmare on Elm Street, Sleepaway Camp, Hatchet, heck, even Santa's Sleigh.
Santa's Sleigh.
With Goldberg from the WWE. They all owe their existence to the groundbreaking Friday the 13th and Halloween.
But I have to go back to Psycho. Now, I think you have Hitchcock, you have a film that was so controversial for its time. You have, the boy next door and Anthony Perkins playing Norman Bates. The fact that you kill your leading lady off, 40 minutes into the movie with Janet Leigh. But I think that what happened with that is I think Psycho, even though there are other films that have come before that, I think Psycho is kind of what laid the groundwork for what would become the slasher films in the 70s, in the 80s.